Good morning. It is a very beautifully wet and wild day out there today. It's Monday morning. It is the 29th of January. So we're just at the end of the month. I am going to film a video that basically talks about everything that I read. So what I read in like a bog standard week. I had like a bit of a weird sleep last night. You know, one of those ones where you just keep waking up and then you wake up really early and you know, okay, this is it, I'm awake now. So I got up and went and had some breakfast, did some reading and did some yoga, got a shower, got dressed and so on and so forth. So the first thing I'm going to speak about is I have just finished My Neighbour Totoro, the little novel. So this is what I was reading this morning while I was waiting on my breakfast to cook. Yeah, so I started on page 177 and I finished the book. So it finished on page 244. So far I have read 67 pages. Now this is obviously kind of a children's book, so it's a very easy read and there are some, not many, but some illustrations in it as well. I haven't seen the film, so this was my first exposure to this story, and I will say, I expected more Totoro. He wasn't in it very much. So that was a little disappointing. Also, I didn't love it. Like, it was fine. That's what I read so far. So otherwise, I'm in the middle of one book at the moment, and that is Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. I'm starting out today on page 220, so anything that I read today will probably be that book. I don't have any other books on the go at the moment. I do want to read City of Lost Souls by Cassandra Clare on audiobook, but that won't be in on my library app until the 31st of this month, and I don't really want to start an audiobook in the meantime because they take me ages to get through. It's me and Words of Radiance for a few days at least anyway. So yeah, that is my first check-in, my first update. I'm gonna actually go film a video now which will be up before this video. So the week before this video I'm gonna film my wrap up for January. It's a 10 book wrap up and I'm gonna do it freestyle, no notes. Can't remember much about any of them, but anyway, I am who I am. Chat to you soon. Hello. It's Tuesday afternoon, 1:45 to be specific, and as I kind of anticipated yesterday, I basically did my few bits, recorded my video for next Sunday, which will have been last Sunday by the time you see this. I edited that in the evening, I got dinner, I looked after my cousin during the day, all that, so my day was actually pretty full in the end, and I actually didn't read as much as I thought I might get around to, but as I said yesterday, I finished Totoro, and then last night I got into bed and rotted for a little while and I read 46 pages of Words of Radiance, and so that means I actually read 113 pages total yesterday, which is more than I expected myself to have because I didn't feel like I read that much, which is interesting. This is kind of a fun experiment for me as well because I don't know really in terms of pages how many pages I would read in a week. So today then I haven't done any reading just yet. I have a kind of a busy day ahead. I'm looking after my cousin now again for the afternoon, and I will be going to visit my partner and we're going to go to the cinema to see All of Us Strangers, the one with Paul Mescal and Andrew Scott, which I'm really looking forward to. So I actually think it'll be quite late when I get in tonight, so I don't think I'll get any more reading done. So that's kind of the reality, I guess, of life. I don't read every day. I try to, and I usually do, but not every day. Sometimes I try to sneak a little bit in here and there, and sometimes I manage it and sometimes I don't. But that's where we're at. I bet you'd have never guessed that immediately after I stopped filming that last clip, I fell asleep for like an hour and a half. But anyway, I'm just packing up my bag for tomorrow because I said I was gonna go for a little old hikey-walkie hike. So most important, I have my plasters and my antiseptic cream stuff for when I inevitably make myself bleed. by falling or something ridiculous. Pretty much standard for me. So a couple bottles of water, might fill up a little flask to have some tea along the route. I don't think it's actually too like intense or strenuous. It's a pretty straightforward trail. I went on a trail on Friday, and let me tell you, it was not a trail, it was like a mountain, and it was just pure bog, like literal bog. I honestly couldn't tell you if I was walking up an actual path or if I was walking up, like climbing up a stream down the side of the mountain. So eventually I turned around, but I did fall on my ass on the way down, and I don't know how I didn't injure myself. Feeling very grateful that I have such fleshy butt cheeks, because that's definitely what saved me that time. So I have like a couple of little bars just to kind of keep me fueled up, and a banana, and I might throw in some bread with hummus or something like that as well. I also have a little waterproof bag for my camera just in case it starts to rain or anything. I always bring that and have yet to use it, bizarrely, even though it is Ireland. I'll have to pack up a couple other bits in the morning, like I have a snud for around my neck, I have my jacket and like my boots and stuff, but I want to bring some spare socks and a change of shoes and things like that. But yeah, definitely better to be prepared than to just go walking. I need to pack some tissues as well, actually. I do have some in the car. One thing I don't like about going on like kind of longer hikes and trails and walks and stuff by myself is what happens when you need to go toilet in the ditch. You don't have anyone to like keep sketch or to keep an eye out when you're dropping your trousers. I really don't like that bit. When nature calls, hey? How do I end up talking about these things on camera? This is what happens when my mouth just starts to go and my brain doesn't follow along. It's currently like only 6:50, but I just feel like it's time for me to get into bed. I'm just so tired. I even ordered pizza for dinner, which was lovely, but which is also something that I really kind of never do by myself. Here we are, I'm full of pizza and full of stories about dropping my pants on the sides of mountains when there's nobody else around. Good morning, old buddies and old pals. It is Thursday morning today, and just going to give a quick check-in on what I actually read yesterday. So as of Tuesday I had read nothing, and then Wednesday, so I read from page 266 to page 418 of Words of Radiance, so that's 152 pages of that book. And then City of Lost Shadows, I read 49 pages, so the grand total for yesterday was 201 pages. But I did have a bit of a sloth day yesterday, so it makes sense that I would have read that much. I'm just packing up my bag there now, so this place that I'm going for, this walk slash hike slash stroll slash I don't know what it is, it's actually about 2 hours of a drive away, I guess, with traffic. So if I listen to my audiobook, I should get a good bit in. Knowing me, I'll just listen to the same 4 songs over and over the whole way there and back. So yeah, that's my morning. I'm going to bring you along with me. So yeah, I think there should be a nice waterfall there, and it should be a nice little trail. So we're going to do that, and the next time then I see you, I will be tomato faced. It'll be lovely. hello, this fun thing has happened whereby I have time travelled, or you, more accurately, have time travelled. The last time you saw me, it was Thursday afternoon and I was trekking around a mountain, and all of a sudden it's Sunday afternoon and I haven't given you any updates for the past few days. Where have I been? Okay, so Thursday, had a lovely walk around Glenbarrow Eco Walk in Laois. Beautiful. Drove home 2 hours, was absolutely spent afterwards. Made some dinner, did my yoga. Essentially, I fell asleep that night at 9 p.m. So on Thursday, I read 0 pages. And then on Friday, I was still a bit tired. I got up, I went to my regular Friday Pilates class. I went to Kilkenny with my mum to look around a few shops, came home. Thursday then, I did no reading. I was tired, life happens. Friday I was quite tired as well, but I did manage to somehow read actually quite a bit of Words of Radiance. So this is my big chunky book that I'm reading at the moment by Brandon Sanderson. So I'm kind of jumping a little bit, but currently I'm about just over 600 pages. This book is just over 1,000 pages, I think, so I'm getting there slowly but surely. It's kind of hard to see your progress when you're reading on the Kindle. Like in a physical book, you can literally see what you've read, whereas on the Kindle it just tells you the percentage and you can't actually see what that is in physical pages. I don't know, I find that really difficult to visualize. I think sometimes I'm like, what does 60% of what, or you know what I mean. This book seems to primarily be following kind of more so Shallan and Kaladin's story. So Shallan is essentially like a scholar and she's really coming into herself. I feel like in the first book she was really frightened, really timid, doing things for the sake of her family, not necessarily for the sake of herself. And in this book we're kind of seeing her take her life by the horns a little bit, and she's really discovering things within herself that she didn't know necessarily existed or didn't know how to use them. There are also these things in this world called spren. I don't know how to describe them. Like if people are angry, it's like they're like these spirits, and anger spren will sprout up around them. So it's like this visual depiction of somebody being angry, or like wind spren when it's windy. So it's this amazing thing. But so Shallan has kind of paired up with a spren that she has named Pattern, and it's just such an interesting thing how they work together. And then of course I've mentioned Kaladin. So Kaladin, he has come from being a surgeon to kind of fighting in a war to becoming basically a slave, and now to being, and I hope that isn't a spoiler, maybe a little. He has also been known to have something kind of unusual about him, and he also has a spren, a different kind of spren, and he is also kind of learning about his own kind of magic and how it works and how to use it. And it's also interesting, and this world is so intricate and so woven together. Like the characters are really, I feel anyway, they're really fleshed out. Like I really know the difference. I think like also because you spend the first book, I think like 1,200 pages with them, and now I'm say 600 pages in, so we're talking like I've spent 1,800 pages with these main characters, and I'm really getting to know them. You really get to know what makes them kind of whir, and yeah, it's been really fun. I know that for some reason a lot of people don't like to read about Shallan's character arc, but honestly, like, it is so far my favourite. I do have big love for Kaladin, don't get me wrong, but I always seem to like to read about like people who are pursuing more intellectual pursuits, and rather than like kind of war. And so, like, I like to read about war, I like to read about fights, and I like to read about the politics of war, but sometimes I feel like people pursuing intellectual pursuits is something that like I enjoy in my own time anyway, so it's something I can kind of relate to in this really weird way, because it's like a totally fantastical world, and you could not relate to this world. It's so funny though, because it feels so grounded even though it's so fantastical. I'm talking myself up in knots. I really
love Brandon Sanderson's writing. This is my second Brandon Sanderson book. I kind of always intended on starting with the Mistborn series, but I just happened to pick up The Way of Kings from my partner's shelf one day, and I got going, and now I'm like, here we are, and I'm just going to keep going. I'm really enjoying it so far. Again, I'm going to say it, I just feel like I don't know how all of this comes from one person's brain. I'm sorry if you hear my cat shouting, by the way. She does that, and there is no stopping her when she gets going. Brandon Sanderson, much respect for this man. I know that this is like high fantasy, and there's a lot to take in, and I'm like just fascinated. Like, I was speaking to my partner this morning about it, and he was saying as well, like, how do you keep track when you're writing these books? And I was like, you definitely have to use spreadsheets. Like, your brain cannot hold on to all that. And like my partner was saying, you know, when he's writing like the next book, obviously the 5th book is being published in December, but like, does he have to reread these books? I mean, these books are a huge undertaking just to read. Like, does he go back and like reread everything and annotate everything and kind of rehash everything? Like, how does he travel between so many different books and so many different story arcs and so many different worlds? Like, I know we're all within the Cosmere here in this series, but really enjoying this book. I think probably more than Way of Kings. It took me a while to get into this world because there's so much going on, and I think The Way of Kings is much more Kaladin heavy and Dalinar heavy as well. Dalinar is another kind of character. He's an older man in his 50s, I think, and he is kind of much more caught up in the war side of things as well. So, I mean, I haven't even touched on the intricacies of this world. Basically, Brandon Sanderson's brain. How does he do it? I don't know. If you're into high fantasy, I think this is a really good way to go. Obviously, it is a huge undertaking, but the thing about it is when you're really enjoying a long book, you're kind of grateful for it being long. And so far, I find the pacing to be spot on. For me, I think the characters, I just love them, and the little different communities and the different tribes and the different like countries and all of the politics, and it's just so well fleshed out. And I'm going to stop yammering on about this book now. On Friday, I read 121 pages of this book, and then yesterday I managed to read 58 pages of it. I have also been listening to The City of Lost Souls by Cassandra Clare, which is the 5th book in her Shadowhunter series. So we're still following Clary Frey as she tries to take over the world. Not really, as she is pulled ever deeper into this Shadowhunter world. And it is what it is. Again, it's very young adult, but I feel like I also have spent quite some time with these characters, and so it's nice to get back in with them. So far I'm 92 pages in, so I don't know, maybe about 20% of the way through. I'm actually not quite sure how long this book is. I think around 500 pages. So far it's setting up like one of our main characters is missing, and basically we're trying to find him. We don't really know what's going on with him. It's like, has he switched sides? Who knows? So far we're kind of encountering a lot of the same characters from the previous stories and a lot of the same kind of villains or antagonists. We see our characters approaching some of the antagonists to ask for help, but also then to have to do something in return for these characters. So that's been quite fun. I feel like Cassandra Clare has been really good at reintroducing the characters and reintroducing where we are in the story. Sometimes I just forget everything that happens in a series, but I feel like, I won't say she's holding my hand, but I feel like she's definitely helping me along the way, leaving little trails of breadcrumbs. And where do we stand with that then? So as I said, Thursday, 0 pages. I intended on listening to my audiobook while I was driving to and from my hike, but I actually didn't. I don't like listening to audiobooks when I'm driving. I like listening to audiobooks when I'm cooking, when I'm playing my Nintendo Switch, and when I'm walking sometimes as well. Driving, not so much. So Thursday, 0 pages. Friday, nothing of this book, again 0 pages. And then Saturday I read 43 pages, or listened to 43 pages of this book. So far I'm still enjoying it. It's really nice to be kind of back in the world with these characters as well. So I feel like I've absolutely been a bit screwy with this. So Thursday, 0 pages. Friday I read only Words of Radiance, and I read 121 pages on Friday. Saturday, which was yesterday, I read 58 pages of Words of Radiance and 43 pages of City of Lost Souls. Oh my word, my brain today and every day. 101 pages yesterday, and this morning then I had stayed at my partner Sean's house last night, and this morning we went to a little hotel, a big hotel near where he lives, and we do this thing where we just kind of bring our books and we sit together and we read, and I usually listen to music to drown out the sounds around us, and I guess it's like parallel play, like spending time together, doing our own thing but together. And I did read a bit this morning of Words of Radiance. I'm not quite sure how much I read, but I read a really fun chapter where Kaladin was learning to kind of control his magic, and Shallan was kind of learning to control hers, and they were kind of juxtaposed against each other. It was really good. Hello friends, as I said to you, I'll be back very quickly on Monday just to check in to let you know how many pages I had read yesterday, so we could total up the tally of all of the pages that I've read this week. So yesterday I read a grand total of 89 pages of Words of Radiance, and I didn't listen to my audiobook at all, so that means over the space of 7 days I didn't read for two days. So the 5 days that I did read, in total 625 pages. I think that's probably a pretty average reading week for me. Fair play to you if you've lasted this long. I feel like this vlog wasn't quite what I set out for it to be. I thought there would be a lot more b-roll, but hey, life happens, bodies happen, and so on and so forth. I appreciate if you have stuck around this long. I also appreciate if you haven't. I understand. This vlog is going live anyway. Thanks so much for being here. I'll chat to you next week in another video. Take care.